I want us to spare a thought for dumb buildings. Okay, so this is probably my 50th Smart Building Conference, and these poor dumb buildings no one ever talks about. So let's shout out for dumb buildings. So we're always talking about buildings like these. They all get their day in the sun. They get prizes, awards. But the reality is, the overriding majority of buildings in the world are nothing like these. They're way more like this, or maybe this one. And they deploy technology like this. And here's an example of some interesting lighting integration. So you get my point, right? So we've all had experiences of dumb buildings. That airport you love to hate, or the office building you love to avoid, like the plague. That condo you should never have bought. Think about the year 2050, right? So given the pace of change in the world today, I think we can all agree 2050 will be a very different world. So the experts say there are going to be 2.5 billion more people living in cities. We will consume double the amount of energy we're consuming today. We're going to be, the demand for electricity will be growing at twice the pace of the demand for energy. So it's going to be a much more electrical world, electrified. And we need to reduce our carbon emissions by 50% to avoid catastrophic climate change. So we're going to need a few things to make all that happen. And one of the ingredients, I think you'll agree, will be very, very smart buildings, right? But get this, 75% of all of the buildings that will exist in 2050, they're already here, guys. They're here, and they've been built. And unfortunately for us, they are very, very, very far from smart. So while we're pondering this problem, I'll tell you a bit about myself. So my name's Cormac. I'm obviously not from around here. You get that? I head up global business development for real estate in Scheider Electric. And I worked for 10 years in the data center business and then 5 years in real estate. And I spent the last 5 years working out how we can apply the cloud that we built in data centers to build value in the real estate sector. And I work for a company called Scheider. You can see the logo down here. Scheider is a French company with a German name, with a CEO based in Hong Kong, and we do most of our turnover in North America. So easy. And in Scheider, we spend over $1 billion a year trying to solve questions like the one I just asked you. What do we do with all these dumb buildings? And the good news is that there are some promising signs, right? So we're already applying technologies from this amazing toolbox that we've inherited from the IT sector that I worked in for 10 years. Tools like cloud, analytics, machine learning, AI, mobile. And we're seeing, like I say, we're seeing some very promising signs. So what I'm going to do is, for the rest of this talk, we're just going to look at 3 ways that we can address the dumb buildings and try and get them ready for this challenge in 2050. So let's start. Number 1, we need to make them green. This is a no-brainer, right? So dumb buildings have a massive carbon footprint. So 30% of the world's carbon is produced by dumb buildings. 40% of the world's energy is consumed by those buildings. And corporate occupiers don't want to move into them anymore. They're looking for sustainable spaces, green spaces. And the knock-on effect from that is that these buildings are worth less. So studies show that buildings that do not have sustainability certifications are between 7 and 9% less valuable than their sustainable counterparts. So what do we do about that? Well, good news is we have lots of ways of addressing existing buildings that are not sustainable. And at Scheider, we've worked on thousands of buildings to address that issue. I'm just going to give you one example. Our own corporate headquarters is a 350,000 square foot facility. And from the moment we moved in until today, we have divided the energy footprint on a square foot basis by 6. And we haven't replaced all the equipment in the building. Everything has been done by baby steps. So we add a variable speed drive here. We change a setting in the BMS here. Yes, we've added some renewables. We've done photovoltaic. We've done geothermal. But most of the changes have been added with a very short ROI in mind. because we have a lease in mind. So the message here is there really is a huge potential to make buildings greener. Second thing I want to talk about is making them flexible. So the way that we consume space and square foot is changing radically, right? We're all talking about co-working. This event is co-sponsored by We. Workplace policies are changing. And get this, dumb buildings have difficulty in adapting to these changes, right? But we're working with some of the largest banks in the world, and we're able to instrument their buildings with smart IoT sensors. And it doesn't take months or weeks or even days. We can do this in a matter of hours. And we can start to gather information about how these buildings are behaving and what the usage is and how we can improve them. And then we can take that data and we can start to improve the controls of the office buildings. And we have technology on the controls side that allows us to completely reconfigure an entire office in a matter of clicks with a fraction of the cost, a fraction of the time, a fraction of the loss of productivity. And we're also working on technologies like microgrid, where existing buildings can become way more agile and way more reactive to the way the energy environment is behaving around them. So really exciting things happening in this area. But I've left probably the single most important aspect of this to last. And that is that we need to make existing buildings stickier. Now, I don't know if you'll agree with me on this, but I believe that buildings today are waging a war for our time. Okay, in retail, this is called footfall. In offices, this is called occupancy. But it doesn't matter, we're talking about the same thing, getting us to spend time so that we produce. The biggest weapon in this war, the most important weapon in this war, is something called experience. And just as up to now, every building has a unique architectural footprint, every building going forward will have a unique experience, many times digitally rendered, which will typify it. And the race to provide that best experience is most definitely on. So I've been fortunate to be involved in the corporate headquarter project of a large French bank called SocGen. And the experience that they provide in their building is absolutely incredible. We provided them with a mobile application, so every person in that building is given an Android phone, and that phone accompanies them through their entire day. So as you're approaching the building, it tells you if you can park in the building, where you can park in the building. It acts as your access control, taking you through the turnstiles. You pay with your coffee. It will tell you using the phone, so no cash in the building. It guides you to the closest collaboration space. And then you can control your environment with the phone. You can close the shutters, turn on the lights, change the temperature. And if something's not working, you can tell the FM again through your phone. And this experience, it's like Pringles. Once you pop, you can't stop, right? So this is the way things are going. So making things sticky is it's hugely important. Now, parting question from you guys is probably, how do we pay for this? So the good news is that it doesn't have to be a zero-sum game, right? If we look at, for example, the World Energy Report, they state that 82% of the global economic potential of energy efficiency is untapped. How long have we been doing green buildings? Long time, right? So we have a huge amount of potential value to create, money to be minted, gold to be mined. It's just waiting there. And the other soundbite I wanted to give you was from a European Commission funded report, which was carried out by the Wuppertal Institute in Germany and Cambridge Macroeconomics. And they basically ran their survey across hundreds of buildings. And they said the following. They said that smart connected commercial buildings typically command rents of up to 11.8% higher than non-connected equivalents. And they transact for between 5 and 35% more. So these are massive amounts of capital that we can potentially access. So my time is up. If you've enjoyed this conversation, please reach out to me on LinkedIn and we can carry it on. We'd be delighted to speak to you. Thank you.